Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Innovation Unplugged, a podcast courtesy of the Innovation Center and the Alabama Community College System. This is my first time hosting the podcast. I am Matt Heaton. I'm the Career Readiness Manager for the Innovation Center, and today we have maybe our first return guest, Mr. Tony May from the Alabama State Department of Education. Tony, if you will, give us a brief recap of, I know you've introduced yourself once before, but any new roles or anything else you've had come on?
Just a couple of things. I think in education, and you're constantly given extra hats. But I am currently the work-based learning specialist for the State Department of Education, just kind of specializing in labor market statistics. Data analysis is kind of the boring titles of my job, but I pretty much like to oversee all things work-based learning. And I like to make sure we get a good, clear understanding. Work-based learning is a continuum. A lot of people put it into the box of co-op. So all things work-based learning. So not just co-op, that's a big part of it, but our job shadowing, interviews, pretty much our employability skills. So kind of overseeing all of that through the K-12 process.
And just recently with some retired folks retiring, you are now my go-to for CRIs as well.
That's
correct?
right. I have some big shoes to fill with Mr. Seeley leaving out, but hey, when you put your years in, you get a chance to go on home. So
Absolutely. Had the opportunity to run into him at the recent STAR competition, and I think he's enjoying his new role as well. Well, let's jump into it. A lot of notes that I have to speak on is kind of follow up from your previous podcast, and we'll get to a couple of quotes you have. But the first one you mentioned during the last podcast, you can't be what you can't see. What does that mean in the grand scheme of things?
Well, I call it the impossible task when I'm presenting to our teachers and our students, and I know that seems kind of daunting, but it is. It's an impossible task for us in the traditional way that we look at high school. You get into ninth grade, you take a career assessment, you possibly choose a career tech pathway, and you go into a career, you choose college, you choose career pathway, whatever. The problem is most people, and I'm going to steal this from Josh Laney, but you ask most second graders what they want to be, they're going to say doctor, lawyer, firefighter, police officer, because that's what they see.
Right.
And the thing is in a room full of extremely educated people, we can start making a list, name occupations. I'll just kind of give an example. I've been a systems engineer before I got into education, been a math teacher, been a principal, been a specialist. So I can speak very, very expertly on 4 occupations. Mm-hmm. If we just start naming occupations, nurse, doctor, lawyer, we go through, I've been in a room full of extremely educated people, and some of the best, we can get through about 80 to 100 occupations, which is great. Mm-hmm. Not speak intelligently, just name them. Here in Alabama, we have 860 occupations. Right. And so it's so difficult for allowing, we can do the best we can, but students have to be able to take that initiative to start looking and seeing what they want to do. And that's where the job shadowing comes in and the exploration, because there's jobs out there that we have no idea that even exist. And I love to challenge people because I do it to myself every day. Mm-hmm. And I say this, I say one day, and if they're watching, maybe they can tell me, I pass by a building called TLK every day about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I have no idea what they do there. But I know they work on Saturdays. I got a lot of cars there when I was passing by. And I challenge people. I say, drive by buildings. Can you name what they do there? Mm-hmm. Do you even know what they do? And most everybody goes, I have no idea. And so the number of innovative jobs, and even this awesome studio we're in right now, I didn't know it even existed. Right. And what occupations that run this operation, students have no idea. And one of the things I usually kind of get at the heart of the kids is how many of y'all want to be a professional athlete? And of course, teachers laugh and people roll their eyes. The chance of being a Major League Baseball player is 0.801 because it's a global market.
Right.
You don't have just it's not an American job market. It's a global market. And what I tell students is, did you know, if you love the game, if you're not just trying to make a ton of money, if you love the game, there's 150 occupations that deal with Major League Baseball. I say, anybody say, I'm the worst basketball player on the planet. I think I can claim that. Everybody argues about the GOAT. I'm the worst. I can tell you, I could be in the NBA. Now, not dribbling a basketball. Right. And so students have no idea what's out there. And so going and I will say one of my biggest pet peeves is hearing somebody say, well, they got the rest of their life to work. Well, that's, you got the rest of your life to read, but, we don't want to wait until you're 40 to do it. And part of the co-op internship process of putting students out there to work their junior and senior year is, our motto is, I'd rather you get fired at 17 than 27. Let's figure this thing out. Let's figure out what's wrong with the skills and talents that you have. Usually it's employability skills, because get some statistics in there. 90% of people lose their job because they lacked employability skills. Only 10% lose their job. It's really 11, but I like the nice round number. Lose their job because they couldn't do the job. Because if you're a good employee, most everybody will train you. So there's so many things out there for students to do, and they have no idea what's out there.
Right. And you talking about that reminds me, years ago, we took a group of juniors and seniors to Atlanta, Georgia, and we were going to tour the Atlanta Braves stadium. All the kids were, we're going to get to meet some baseball players. Like, no, there's probably nobody on this charter bus right now that's going to be a Major League Baseball player. But if you're that interested and have a love for the game, we're going to go explore the other aspects of everything else you don't see on the field. Like, if you enjoy cutting grass, you can make a really good living for a baseball franchise, even AA, AAA. Just make our field look pretty, let the players put on the show, and then all the front office, executive, the computer work that – until, again, like you said, until you can see it, hopefully get that experience to touch it in some way, but to either one, say, yes, I like this, I love it, I want to pursue it, or we have this discussion all the time, I don't. Let's check that off the box. You're not out any money, FAFSA or anything like that, but I know what I don't want to do. Now I can move on to continue to explore the things that I do want to do. So that's good. I kind of thought that was kind of the realm of that quote, and it couldn't be more true. Next, I'm gonna hit you with a little data. I know on your previous podcast, y'all spoke about a few things. I know Houston hit you with our high school sections at that time. I think that was probably late spring of 23 when you came on the podcast last. So those sections at that time, he threw out. We had 278 total sections, and 193 of those were high school. So actually, I think this would be the fall data post that time. But current spring 25, and these were current as of last night. We have a total of. This is our first time as the Innovation Center going over the 1,000 course section mark, but out of 1,017, 510 of those are different high school sections currently taking our courses for a CRI. What does that mean to you and you guys at the State Department?
I'll be honest, it means so much. When I first heard about, of course, the first words I heard was skid steer. But I mean, just to go through and I get extremely excited when I talk about the Innovation Center, because what that means is students are getting hands-on and they're getting to apply things. And I'm going to sidebar just for a second because I think this is relevant. I think this has kind of been my new mantra lately is I think what we do, what we've done the worst at, if we could say what we have not done a good job of in education, is explaining to students why you're here. Yep. As a math teacher, I got asked the questions all the time. When am I ever going to use this again? When am I ever going to use this again? And ultimately, here's the thing. Here's the truth. Is you're here to learn how to learn. A lot of students, and I've been asking them, I'm a youth minister as well, so I ask my students all the time, I ask my youth all the time, what are you in school for? And a lot of them roll their eyes, and I got to get X number of credits, I got to take so many histories, I got to read Shakespeare, I got to turn in a book report. And they think it's all for a grade. Right. And even the math part of it. I was like, the math that you learn is so inconsequential. It's not really anything. It's a foundation of something to actually launch a rocket into space. Yep. calculus is almost like breathing. It's so minute in the process. So we're here to learn how to learn. And so many times students engage in the K-12 process and they never get to apply anything. It's simply just go through and they see everything almost as meaningless. Well, when you get a chance to go in and touch a piece of heavy machinery, you get, and I love the logic of, we're going to go through and we're going to do the theory. We're going to show you why, because you don't just jump out there. I don't just, when I was a baseball coach, I didn't say, slide. Yeah. I need to demonstrate it. And so here's your theory. And now you're actually going to touch it, because at the end of my class, even as a math teacher, we never touched anything. It just ended with the final exam.
Yep.
What it ends with in this process, 512 different courses, they're getting to actually put their hands on it and realize, I love this, or I could give or take it.
Yeah.
And that's and again, you really touch on some nerves when you talk about somebody getting in your classroom. And I was speaking with a chef in one of our high schools, and she's a very talented chef. And we had that conversation of, a kid comes in your class, all of a sudden, I hate culinary. This is awful. I'm ready to be out of here. And your initial knee-jerk reaction is get a little offended.
Yep.
But that's a wonderful thing, because now it's like, I want to say, okay, 839 more to look through. And I make the joke all the time. I said, y'all, I think one of the craziest statements ever, I said, if you ever look for your keys or your wallet and you say, you find it and go, it's always in the last place I look.
Yep.
Well, yeah. Why would you keep looking? So you're going to not find your career way more, because once you find it. And so back to that thing is why it means so much is that many opportunities for students to actually get their hands on something and discover it and get to apply it.
Right.
Not just a theory.
Right. Awesome. All right. So next number, I love digging into these, and it's for my daily routine. It's what I get up hoping to check another one off the box. But last time you were on, we were currently at 5 school systems served. As of this week, spring 25, 119 school systems. So within a couple of years period of time, at that 5, when we were granted, we had 5 school systems willing to do it, to prove a model for you guys. So it wasn't even a CRI for those first school systems, but now 119 different school systems taking these courses for a CRI. What does that say to you?
One, it shows the excitement.
Yes.
I have done it. I'm not trying to bolster something here. When I've mentioned this to any school that I've been in, I was like, hey, have you seen what the Innovation Center is doing? The excitement. And every time, this has been by far 100% of the time, an administrator, principal, superintendent goes, I got 10 kids right now that I could put in that. The excitement's there. And the fact that you went from, I'm doing some rough math here, 3% of school systems to 80% of school systems in 1 year. It's a testimony to y'all's hard work, but it's a testimony to people buying into this because, it's just a wonderful process.
Yeah. And I like seeing the data, that data specifically, and more so, you see these same school systems that, because we went from 5 to, and a huge jump when we attached to the CR list to mid-70s to now being at almost 120, but those return customers, for lack of a better word, they didn't just take a course to check that box.
Right.
They're coming back and taking more things. Where I like skid steer, and so now I found out that I can come back and I can take excavator and bulldozer and roller to go along with that to package it for employment in the future. Our goal is to be 100% of those school systems. I don't know. It may not be attainable. There may be, oddly enough, some school system, for whatever reason, they don't pursue that career tech track, but hopefully we get there. So,
I definitely think it would be a disservice to our students to not offer it, because y'all are asking a pretty penny for it. which is nothing.
Yes, yes.
I mean, if as a principal, as a former principal, you would have presented me with this, I'd have been like, this one of them too good to be true. Is like, what are you going to hit me with later on down the road? And nothing but opportunity. And so, I mean, and again, the way it's scaled is any number of students can do it. And again, I can even see the ones going, man, I love skid steer, but what is that fiber optic thing?
Right.
I mean, that's look, and I'll tell you right now, my wife being a poultry farmer, it would have saved me a whole lot of money if I'd have known how to splice fiber optic. And, and so, because that's how they run in our internet. And hey, look, I was up at 12:30 this morning because a piece of the fiber optic port, thank goodness it was something I could fix, went out, and the alarm's going to call you all night long, and we got to make sure that the fans are turning on. And I mean, so farmers pay a good penny to be able to do that. So what a wonderful asset that you can just equip yourself.
To that point, I got a call a couple of weeks ago. One of our Southern community colleges, they were talking to their regional career tech folks, directors, had them all in the same room. He said, hey, I'm getting tons of calls. Can fiber optics be part of the agricultural natural resources? I said, I don't know why it can't. I said, it's already kind of grandfathered into the CRI list, so those individual specialists just need to see that request. He said, well, our specialist is going to be in the room tonight. I was like, captive audience. If it makes sense and fits the curriculum, then those things can be updated. So, and their main point was that chicken house and everything automated, and there's a certain kind of wire and fiber you need for that. So one of our biggest, he was actually our pilot instructor for the fiber, and he still helps instruct and kind of tells the kids, he's like, yes, everybody's supposed to call 811 before you dig, but it benefits me when they don't. When they cut through this fiber, every time I click that machine to make one splice, he's like, that's a $150 click for me. So a mistake for not calling what you're supposed to do is really what makes your career, but it happens every day.
Yeah.
Career clusters and programs. I want to say last time you were on, we may have been 4 or 5 different career clusters with just a handful of programs, and program guides for 25-26 have been released, but I don't think an official CRI list will come out until probably summer conference.
Right. Yeah.
But from digging through the program guides, it looks like, and I know there's some reshuffling of career clusters to match the federal, but as of today, I think we're shy of just 2 career clusters. So each year we've almost doubled in the career clusters and programs, and we're appreciative of that. And I imagine y'all are saying yes to the addition request because of the feedback you were getting. What is that like?
Well, it's the big thing is listening to business and industry. I think that's the biggest selling point. Is when I first heard of the Innovation Center, it was actually Dr. Kelly called me from LBW, and he goes, "Hey man, if you know business and industry, this has a need for skill development. Let us know." Because we want to, and so this wasn't and all, I'm not trying to rip on curriculum specialists and things like that, but this is not a think tank in a room by a textbook committee that are putting these together. This is business and industry going, this is a very specific skill that we extremely need. Right. Can we train up for this? And so, to be able to expand those into the multiple career clusters and whatnot, and again, I don't want to rip on education. We do a lot of great things. We do wonderful things for our students, but we also got to learn, some things we don't do well. And again, one of the other things I don't believe we do well is we don't listen to business and industry. A lot of times we hear what they want to say, they hear what they have to say, we treat them to coffee, we sign a piece of paper, and then we go back to business as usual. And that's we just can't afford to do that. We got to listen to the needs of what business and industry are asking. And so for these to be expanded, what I hear is we got more and more business and industry going, this is a valuable asset. These are what we need. And I'm excited just on the customer service side, because I could spend 15 podcasts talking about employability skills and that development. I've already touched on some of it with 90% of our workforce loses their job because of that. Looking at our participation rate, because, a lot of people talk about the unemployment rate. Josh Laney is going to be happy to hear these things, but this is talking about that labor force and unemployment. That's one talking point, but that non-participation rate. We only have for our youth, 16 to 19 years old, we only have 30% of them working in the workforce. That's 70% of our youth that is not out there, and what a time to learn. And so getting them, and of course, when it first came out, and you're going to have somebody who looks at a skid steer and go, I don't even know what a skid steer is, and I'm intimidated by heavy equipment. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be transparent here. I'm intimidated by large trucks, like buses. I won't drive them. I drive little bitty vehicles. The Ford Maverick is my choice. I just don't like driving big vehicles. They make me nervous. So I could see that. And so being able to expand to multiple clusters going, but I do like that. Oh, I like that. I like that. That's a wonderful asset for K-12.
Well, and talked about not liking the bigger machines. We had I believe she was a high school student, and she had signed up for that skid steer, and she got to lab day and then realized how claustrophobic she was. So between the instructors and our staff on site, the instructor's like, you've already done the theory. You've already spent that time with the registration, and you, on paper, know what to do. Like, how can we get around this wall, over the wall, through the wall? And the instructor's like, it's not the same skid steer, but I've got a cabless with no cap top on it back here. We could just roll it out. And so the young lady wound up sitting in it, no top, and then work up the courage to eventually complete the whole course, and came back and added some extra time to get her hours and competencies checked. But something that, if you would have let her, she would have, I'm not going to credential, I can't do this, but just to allow opportunities. And in the grand scheme of things, that's probably what we're trying to do the most, is just to allow a different opportunity for a career path, career exploration. So it's fun. It's on a daily basis. We hear different testimonials and
well, and it's not ideal, but I mean, that's part of that good process. She realizes, I don't want to do this.
Yep.
I mean, and I know we want to complete it. We want to get through it. You just, hey, let's tough it out. My dad gave me the mentality. You never, hey, look, if you're going to start it, you don't
right.
quit, things like that. I get that.
Yep.
I get that. But I'll tell you, I'm kind of an odd person when it comes to workforce. I get enthralled by just watching people do the job. So next to they're building the new legislative house, or the house, whatever it is called. They're building that, and I've watched, and I just get fascinated. I'll sit out there and watch,
right.
And I'm like, how did this guy's just hammering away on some rebar? It's like, what? Who? Not only how does he know to do that job? Who assigned him to do that job? And then I look up at that crane operator, who's, I mean, he is a long way, and there ain't nothing but him and a piece of glass separate. So it's part of that whole. Then you need to experience, because the girl in theory might have wanted to do skid steer, but realized, and it's like, my wife is brilliant as she is. She went through nursing school, top of her class, had one semester left to go, top of her class, albeit, and one of her patients was 98 years old and passed away. Social, I mean, just mentally, it rattled her. She's like, I can't, and so she had to get out of nursing. And everybody was like, you're crazy. Why would you not? And so there's some things that, man, it's better to explore and learn.
Right.
And of course, she wishes she would have, known about that before. But there's social emotional things to it as well, and there's so many variables to look at. That's what I love about the hands-on. You're going to get in there and you're going to realize real quick, this is something I want to do, or let me choose something else. And the great thing is y'all have expanded and give that opportunity to look for more opportunities.
Yes. The last podcast, you're 3 years from now, you said you would like to see this 3 years from now touch every career cluster. We're not quite there, but in your mind, what are those gaps? How can we fill those gaps to make that 3-year vision come to fruition?
Well, I almost want to say it's an impossible task for you as well, man. Yeah. What we've done is or what y'all have done is again a broad opportunity of things to do. I just want, if it's sustainable, just to continue adding.
Yep.
Because again, it's business and industry going, this is a skill we need, please provide it. And I start thinking about those, the law enforcement, government, stuff like that. But y'all have touched that.
Yep.
With drones.
Yep.
That coming out as well. And I just want to share, I was here in Tuscaloosa months ago at the WOW event. And of course, I'm a big nerd when it comes to technology and stuff like that. And so I see this drone and I'm like, this thing is sweet. Well, it was ran by, I saw cybersecurity. My son at the time was wanting to go into cybersecurity. So I was like, hey, tell me about it. But I was like, I work with Tuscaloosa Police. We fly out these drones and we can look at access. I mean, he looked at a sign he's like, that sign is 86 yards away and it measures at 72 degrees. I'm like, why would you need to know the temperature of the sign? He goes, thermodynamics. We can, if we don't have lighting, we can, almost like the Predator movie, we can look at your heat signature. So yeah, even in law enforcement, because I started thinking, what could you do in law enforcement? But y'all are doing it with drone technology.
Yes.
So again, just those things that, and what's wonderful about it is everything in technology changes so fast with AI that, it's not just AI, it's the fact that AI is opening up more opportunities for us. So, continuing that, want to touch every pathway and then just expand on it. I hope the Innovation Center has to hire 100 people to keep it sustainable.
That would be great. And to that point, with our two newest courses that I think there has been a request to try to get those added, but that drone, the different clusters that's going to span to, part of the filming of that course, it was the agricultural drone, and they're not doing a whole lot of that crop dusting plane anymore. It's done with drones. Spoke with one of our colleges the other day, and they were getting some roof quotes, and a human being never climbed up on that roof. They took all the measurements with the drone, and then your law enforcement for bomb squads and whatnot. So, I think the reach on that one, and then the mastering the customer experience. Laura and Kaylee both, they've called me this week like, how is this different from the customer service? I said, well, number one, customer service was a request from Alabama Power, a lot of call center related stuff, and I told you during that luncheon that day that the scenarios can be twisted to whatever cluster or program you're in, but this mastering the customer experience, I said, just the additions, because it was kind of an internal thing, like, hey, we can make this stackable and build upon the basics they learn in customer service, but now it doesn't matter what career field you go into. And I had this discussion the other day. You can be a really good teacher, but if you can't deal with your other adult human beings in the building, your students, and a lot of time the students aren't their issue. They could do that all day, every day, but the calls from the parents, those are never the positive calls. So how do you deal with that, with the conflict resolution, and allow that parent to get off the phone? I didn't bend over backwards, but that parent got off the phone thinking the problem is resolved. I'm happy with the way it went, but all parties leave happy, but at the end of the day, you get the job done or whatever task was set out to do. So I hope between those two courses we can fill a lot of those gaps, and I'm excited to see where all it does get added. Next thing I've got, it was another quote you mentioned in the last podcast, and I feel like I had an interview one time for a job, and this was a specific question on questioning how much more I was going to pursue a higher degree to look good on paper. And my response was, I don't feel like a piece of paper determines how good of a job I could do for you on a daily basis and for your students. So your quote was, it's not about the degree, it's about the W-2. So the W-2 side, and really how it affects your family. And I mean, your biggest thing is what you're bringing home to your family and the people around you. Tell us about that a little bit more.
Well, I'm right there with you. You know, a piece of paper can validate, you know, what content you know. It's, you know, again, we want to continue learning.
Right.
I've not stopped. I take courses from, I won't name it on here because I'm not trying to, you know, promote anybody, but I actually take online courses that I pay for outside just so I can continue to learn. You know, we need to continue to learn, and that's what a piece of paper will do. But the thing is the, you know, that's a qualifier. It's you know, I say this when I'm presenting on this. You know, I put it in this is my Alabama South Alabama way of saying it is, a degree will get you a job. Your work ethic will keep you a job.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, and my favorite example is, you know, even talking about teachers. You know, I like to ask a room. I was like, hey, you know, teachers, students, how many of y'all have ever had a bad teacher? And I mean, you know, there's some there's hands going up, you know.
They don't even mind calling those
Yeah,
names
well, I tell them, I
out.
said,
Just hang on.
when I talk to students, I said, I don't need y'all to look or name names.
Yes.
And actually, when I'm around teachers, I said, I don't need y'all to look or name names.
Yes.
And everybody laughs about it. But what I have noticed too, I say, now, how many of y'all have ever had a great teacher? And the hands go up so much faster. I said, so here's the thing. They had the same degrees.
Mm-hmm.
They had the same pieces of paper. What set them apart?
Yep.
And it boils down to their work ethic, their desire to want to go above and beyond, having that ambition, having that empathy, wanting to, you know, they know when today is not a day about, you know, I can look at my students and realize they don't care about math today.
Mm-hmm.
And I always go back to the example of, I remember when, you know, my firstborn, who was born with a very rare cancer, when she was 12 months old, they had to tell us, and it was on my birthday. I'll never forget. I was working at the distribution center. I was an engineer for the distribution center, and it was an unexpected appointment. I said I didn't go because it wasn't a big, you know, it was supposed to just be a checkup. And that's when they let us know that her arm had to be amputated. And for me, I struggle with that so much as a dad, you know. So, you know, not getting off on that this is a podcast, but I remember going outside and I was upset. I mean, it had started raining. I punched my truck. I was just upset.
Yeah.
And I had to go back into a meeting, and our boss was just livid because ketchup had been miscounted by QA.
Yeah.
And I did not care about ketchup.
Yep.
Now, I didn't have to, we didn't argue, didn't scream, nothing dramatic happened, but I'll never forget, I was like, in my world right now, I don't care.
Right.
And so, and I will say this, and this would be something maybe to even think about, you know, I've started doing I've been dabbling in a leadership. I watch a lot of Simon Sinek and Jordan Peterson, you know, talking about those guys, but talking about leadership because that's nothing that's ever trained on how to do it. And a lot of that is what you were just talking about. How do you deal with people? How do you communicate? How, you know, can you learn to be the last one to speak in the room?
Yep.
Can you listen? Can you understand that if somebody has a different opinion? Because right now, go on social media. If somebody has a different opinion from you, it's almost offensive. It's like you have punched me in the face if you disagree with me.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not the case. We can disagree. And so let me talk to you. And as a principal for all those years, I had a good rapport with parents because I would just listen. They wanted to come in, and sometimes it's scream and cuss and whatnot. It didn't rattle me. It wasn't me as a person they were attacking. They had a situation, and they just needed to be heard and have at least somebody to advocate for them. I may not agree with you, but I'm going to advocate with you. What can we do to find common ground on what you? So those things right there, and so this all goes back around to yes. And I tell students all the time, please don't hear what I'm saying as education is not important. Education is critically important.
Absolutely.
You get all the education you can get your hands on because all it does is provide you opportunity. If I would not have had a degree, I didn't need a degree to be the engineer that I was. Believe it or not, for Walmart, they'll move you up without that. I didn't need to have that degree. But if it weren't for the degree, I couldn't have got a teaching job that helped the insurance that I needed.
Yep.
It gave me an opportunity to do something. And so I'm glad I got it, but that's not what made me successful.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. And one of the things that I think in education the whole time between your boss and your colleagues was to the public, we're on the same page. We can always go behind closed doors and hash out whatever disagreement, but at the end of the day, and I try to operate on this basis on a daily basis. If you're doing the right thing for the right reason, there's always going to be somebody that is unhappy. You can't always make everybody happy, but if you're doing the right things for the right reasons and your heart's in the right place, then the rest will take care of itself.
That's right.
All right. So I know we're getting close to time. Typically the podcast closes with a question similar to this, but a year, 2 years from now, or hopefully we make this a regular yearly follow-up. So next podcast together, what are we toasting to with the State Department of Education and the Innovation Center?
Just the expansion, the continued expansion, to see that numbers grow, and just looking forward to what's coming. What is our next module? What's our next offering that
Yes.
you're going to have? So I'd love to. I tell you, I almost feel ungrateful by asking for more because we have so
Right.
much.
Well,
But I would say, I again, that same closing the gap on all those clusters, and then again, just what business industry are desiring, let's get out there and get those skills, because these students, they believe in it.
Yeah.
They believe in it.
well, and I'm happy to hear you say that, because I question that at times too when I'm going through the list. Like, yes, this makes sense. I think I'm almost positive it's in the curriculum. We've already got 7 or 8 in there, but 9's not terrible. I did have one more question that just joggled my mind, and it's been a kind of a topic in the career readiness world for the Innovation Center. But what are your thoughts on the Skills for Success courses from 9 through 12th grade becoming that digital portfolio? And I'll give you an example for the architecture and construction, the way we've kind of started laying it out. If, as a freshman, they could take that customer service and or mastering the customer experience, and then they roll into the 10th grade and they're going to go ahead and take the plumbing, the electrical, and the carpentry. And then by the time they're juniors and seniors, you add that all the heavy equipment bundles to that portfolio. And Houston and I talked the other day, if you're feeling real froggy, add on a Class A or Class B CDL to that long list of items. With that portfolio, when you walk across the stage and decide a 2 or 4 year degree is not for me, I'm ready to go to the workforce. What does that portfolio, what are your thoughts on that portfolio, and how does that look for those high school students graduating?
I will say, if I want to be just honest,
Mhm.
and I don't like this, and we need to change our way of thinking. That's it for, okay, let me just say this. For me, that's probably going to be your most successful
Mm-hmm.
graduate in
Right.
that entire class, bar none, valedictorian, out the door. That's going to be one of your most successful graduates right there. We got to realize that kind of headline is what is best. I have battled with, we don't want to just send our kids to McDonald's. We want internships and apprenticeships, and those are great things. I mean, again, I'm not knocking on any of those things, but please don't discount the getting in and understanding how to have work ethic and develop, because what they've determined through 25-year study with the University of Minnesota is pretty much it boils down to your work skills or your work ethic comes from home.
Right.
All right. A disturbing fact is only about the average teenager this day and age only has about 15 minutes a week of meaningful dialogue.
Right.
Meaningful dialogue.
Yep.
Not just say, hey, how's it going? Let's talk about the game. Meaningful dialogue. Sit down at dinner. And again, we got parents that are working their butt off. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. I get that. I'm not dissing the home. So we got to close that gap.
Yep.
And we got to, and I know this doesn't look as pretty as, hey, we just gave out $6.5 million in scholarships.
Yep.
But what we've done is we've just put a human in the workforce who is ready, capable, and no debt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a wonderful gift. You're talking about a generational wealth. You're going to change that student. Because if you got a student who did this, who didn't have a whole lot because this is free,
Right.
and went through that, you're now talking about somebody who's got the potential down the road of making six figures or more, having their own company. And honestly, I keep focusing back on that customer service.
Yeah.
The fact that they have that on top of all these trades that they're going to have on top. But again, we don't celebrate that.
Right.
You know, we celebrate straight A's, perfect attendance. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But we got to also learn to celebrate these things right here that get glazed over.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I would love to see is somebody going on that track that you described, being the highlight. I mean, we got a lot of kids right now that are picking up ball hats and they're choosing their colleges and they're going to go play college ball.
Yep.
I mean,
choose your hard hat. Which hard hat are you putting on?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yes. Well, and I think on a lot of the grand scheme of things, we think close to the same, if not very, very similar to all these thoughts and how it should look, which you always got red tape to get through. But our plan is to hopefully have that laid out portfolio for every career cluster so they can finish with multiple credentials and those valedictorians, salutatorians we talk about all the time. We're always going to need the doctors, the lawyers, the nurses, and things like that. But we need these hands-on skills because a lot of these folks are 5 to 10 years from being out of the industry, and we need those folks to replace them because you may start out very entry level, and that's what our courses are for. But within 5 to 10 years, we need you to be that guy or that gal to take this company to the next however many years you choose to be here.
Look, and I think we're doing a disservice if we don't talk about putting our doctors and lawyers in that customer service role. I know I'm very fortunate to have 2 extremely bright sons who are looking to go to medical school and physical therapy school. They're just extremely bright. But it's like, hey, y'all gonna work in the chicken houses. Y'all gonna do. We don't like. I know you don't like doing it. I said, but you're gonna develop a work ethic, and you're gonna learn how to work. And over the 7 years that I've watched them grow up in these chicken houses, I've seen the transition, and that's gonna affect their outcomes. And so I think it would be disingenuous to not talk about putting everybody. I don't care who you are in these pathways to some degree, and then even complementing that further is now putting them in those last phases of work-based learning, so they've gone through that whole process and getting a job, and you can go and do this as a career. And I mean, hey, schools I know I believe it's Hale County in Georgia, they do a similar process where they learn asphalt placement, and their students redo their parking lots, and they're saving tens of thousands of dollars. And it's not free labor. They're paying their students to do it. But, I mean, it's a teaching and earning situation. And that's what the whole process is. It's like, hey, I love seeing the economic impact, but, man, the skills that you're getting out of this, invaluable.
Absolutely. And we're going to have a follow-up at some point in time, and it looks like we're going to make this a yearly thing because there's a lot of project-based learning that we can touch on there, that things that we have had. But they're telling us in our ear that we are out of time. We are way over time, and I think we could probably still talking for another hour if we needed to. But want to thank Tony again for being here, Tony May with the Alabama State Department of Education. This is going to conclude another episode of Innovation Unplugged. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow Innovation Unplugged on all of your social media platforms. Thank you, and have a great day.